On Grid tonight, Haas F1 is teaming up with Toyota. Will the new tie-up help take Haas further up the grid? Hailie Deegan is switching to INDY NXT full-time in 2025. Will she find more success in open-wheel racing compared to her stock car career? Meyer Shank Racing is back in IMSA's GTP class after a year away. Will their driver lineups make them immediate contenders? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert, and with me tonight are Joe Samaniego and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat, ask questions, and support us through Super Chat. And before we begin, I want to acknowledge that today is October 16th, and this is a day that a lot of racing fans all over the world know this date. October 16th, 2011 is a date that I will remember forever. I'm sure many of you will remember forever as well. And as we sit here today on October 16th, 2024, it's hard to believe it's already been 13 years since we lost Dan Weldon on that tragic day at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And we'll always remember the Lionheart, and his spirit will live on forever as we watch his two young sons, Sebastian and Oliver, find success early in their racing careers. And we definitely hope to see Sebastian and Oliver Weldon in the NTT IndyCar Series and competing in the Indianapolis 500 someday, just like their father did. And now, Joe, take it away with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Top story, of course, coming from Formula One. Haas F1 has formed a technical partnership with Toyota Gazoo Racing. Now, under this new multi-year agreement, Toyota will provide Haas with design, technical, and manufacturing services. In return, Haas will provide Toyota with technical expertise and commercial benefits. Starting with this weekend's race, the United States Grand Prix at Circuits of America, we'll see Toyota Gazoo Racing brands on both Haas F1 cars for Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg. For team principal Ayo Komatsu, this is a dream come true for the Japanese-born leader of a F1 program to partner with a Japanese manufacturer. Komatsu said he is hugely excited for the new partnership with Toyota and believes the ability to tap into the resources and knowledge will be very beneficial for the team's future. He also added that Ferrari supports this new partnership, will continue to supply engines for Haas. To make this perfectly clear, Toyota will not build its own F1 engines at this time, but it's interesting to see them get involved at the Pinnacle Motorsports again, graphic courtesy of Haas F1. Kobe, how significant is this to see Toyota returning to Formula One with Haas?
Yeah, this is quite significant news, and especially the timing of this. I think it was either last Wednesday night, last Thursday night. All I remember, it happened at night. It's very weird to see a major motorsports news story basically drop when we're getting ready to go to bed here on the East Coast, or like you, Matt, and over there in the UK, asleep in the middle of the night. That was really odd timing to see this news drop, at that time. But yeah, really excited to see Toyota return to Formula One. As you say, Joe, this is not a full-blown factory Toyota team. That this is just a technical alliance for now, and I guess we'll see what happens. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Toyota can do to try to help this Haas program, try to improve and score more points on a regular basis and become contenders. I remember when Haas first came into Formula One, their very first race, they looked very strong with Roman Grosjean behind the wheel at the time, and we thought, sky was the limit for Haas. But, as the years have gone on, we've seen them have a lot of ups and downs, and especially in the last few years, quite a bit of struggles. And to their credit, I think they have improved. But partnering with Toyota, maybe that can help take them to the next level. Maybe Toyota will have some ideas, that Haas haven't explored yet, and maybe we can see them, continue to get faster, continue to improve. I know their driver lineup next year, Esteban Ocon, Oliver Bearman, good driver lineup for Haas, and we'll see what they're able to do in 2025 and beyond. But all in all, I think this is a win-win for both sides on Haas and Toyota Gazoo Racing.
Evening, everybody. A trip into the time machine, much like the three of us being together, the Grid Network Originals back on the show. Toyota coming back into F1. I was, as you say, Kobe, stunned a little bit at this because it was broken. I got up Thursday morning, and one of my normal Thursday routines is to check how many views we had on the show from the night before on the Wednesday night, but the timeline was swamped with stories and posts about this going on Twitter and Facebook and such like. So very surprising. Good news, another manufacturer back. I know they're kind of treading water a little bit here with this. No engines, as you say. It's still going to be Ferrari powered. next year. So even that in itself is an interesting tie-up that, Ferrari have kind of allowed this to happen. Obviously, Haas being a Ferrari customer, as they have been throughout their F1 tenure. So that's really good. I was always a fan of the Toyota effort previously, back in the mid to late noughties when they had Trulli and Glock at the end there, and 2009, of course, when we had the big rule change when Brawn was so dominant. Toyota were kind of second or third team at the beginning of that season before they kind of fell away and then ended up pulling out at the end of the year. So it's good to see them back in whatever shape or form this is, but maybe it's leading to something down the line. So starts this weekend. Haas running, I think they're one of 3 teams running a special livery this weekend at Circuit of the Americas, along with McLaren and Alpine. So look out for that. They've got special livery and they'll have the Toyota GR stickers on the car. So really exciting for Formula One. There's Toyota coming back. Ford, of course, announced a long time ago now with Red Bull coming back shortly in whatever, again, not a massive capacity we think, but still manufacturer branding on all the cars pretty much throughout the field now, going into next year is another really exciting uptick for Formula One, which I was thinking today, we've had 4 weeks pretty much since Singapore, and apart from the Max Verstappen swearing gate, which we talked about a few weeks ago, and I had my big rant about, there hardly hasn't been an F1 story, has there? It's gone very, very quiet in these last few weeks, but this will get a lot of attention, I would think, over the weekend and going forward, especially when we get to Suzuka next year. They'll have plenty of Toyota people in and around Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix in April to support their new Formula One partner team in Haas, which is really exciting.
This is very exciting news from Formula One, especially with all the negative news. This sort of reminds me a little bit, Matt, of what we had in the early 2000s, where you had BMW with Williams, you had Renault, you had Toyota, you had Honda. Almost every team had manufacturer support. So it's gone away. To see it, Toyota branded, Ford branded, this is just going to be huge for Formula One, all the people involved. And for Haas, a huge step up. I think a lot of folks that may have doubted the early season move to change team principal, I think now they're starting to believe with the results they're showing this year, with this deal, things are coming up and up for Haas F1. I think it has to be very exciting for Haas. For the Toyota side of the partnership, they hope to convey an environment with Haas that will allow the young Japanese drivers, engineers, and mechanics to get experience working in Formula One. Toyota said they have no plans to have its own F1 team and believe the best move is to collaborate with Haas. The main focus will be helping out Haas with the aerodynamic sides in an effort to improve the F1 program and create a pathway for their own people to make it to F1. So, Matt, overall, Toyota, say they don't have to plan to return to F1 with a full-blown factory team like they did in the past. Could the past repeat?
Well, maybe, and that's, we always hope for more manufacturer entries in everything, and we're getting that across kind of world motorsport. Really, we've got more people coming into World Endurance Championship next year with Aston Martin, and we had the Hyundai news, didn't we, a few weeks ago, that they're coming to the play in GTP/Hypercar as well. So that Aston Martin in the full blown in Formula One obviously already, which adding to that WEC program, adding to that. So I think if it goes if they find all the positives that they hope they would find, you know what I mean, with bringing in some engineers, possibly bringing a driver or two through the ladder system of F3 and F2, because we know there's plenty of very quick Japanese guys out there. But if they're kind of stuck in Japan in sort of super formula, they don't get the big push towards Formula One unless they get caught up with a driver development program like the Red Bull family or something like that, as we've seen with Iwasa and people like that over the last few years, and Yuki Tsunoda, obviously. Then that would be good for that side of things. I'm really positive about it. I think it should, if Haas, who of course, they've been in the doldrums last couple of years, but now they're turning it around. Nico Hülkenberg leaving the team at the end of the year is going to be a huge loss, because he has been the stalwart of that team this year, and his qualifying performances have been sensational. If they can keep that all going again into next year, then and beyond, then maybe Toyota will go, you know what, maybe we've had enough of WRC. We've won that multiple times. Maybe we've had enough of the WEC, where they're now not winning all the time, like they have been over the last few years. Maybe, maybe the engine reg changes coming towards Formula One will, give them another kick up the butt as it pertains to get themselves back in a full-blown capacity in the years to come.
Those are excellent points, Matt. And in the last few years or so, there have been rumors of like what's team owner Gene Haas going to do with his Haas F1 team. There have been rumors, that have been swirling about Haas potentially selling. And if that were to come to fruition, this will be an easy out. You just have Toyota Gazoo Racing take over the Haas team and then become a full-blown Toyota factory team. And, that would probably be an easy out for Gene Haas if he wanted to take that route. But there's been nothing to suggest that he's wanting to get out right now, because for goodness sake, he just, signed this deal, with Toyota Gazoo Racing to bring them on board. So it seems like he's committed to Formula One for the foreseeable future, and really looking forward to seeing how this Haas and Toyota partnership goes about. So to answer your question, Joe, I think it could absolutely change in the years ahead. Once Toyota gets back into the fill of things with Formula One, since it's been a while for them. Yeah, like you're saying, Matt, they may decide, they don't want to continue on with the World Rally Championship. They may decide they don't want to continue on with World Endurance Championship, especially with the competition in the hypercar class getting stiff. And also, you could also argue that the balance of performance situation as well has a little bit to do with that. But yeah, I think Toyota is going to be evaluating things in the next few years. Like right now, they've stepped their foot in the door. They're kind of just filling things out. And if they feel like this, with the new regulations change come up in 2026, is something that they want to go 100% all in on, yeah, maybe we could see them return in full capacity someday. But for the time being, this is just a technical alliance, and they're supposed to be beneficial for both Haas and Toyota. Also, Joe, you mentioned that we could see some young Japanese drivers get some great opportunities here. And one of the young Japanese drivers that who's supported by Toyota, they brought him over from Super Formula, is the Formula 2 driver Ritamo Miyata. Could this new tie-up between Haas and Toyota lead Miyata to get a potential Haas F1 reserve seat or something like that? And another Toyota driver who's currently a reserve driver from McLaren is Ryo Hirakawa. Could we see him, move over from McLaren to be a Haas F1 reserve driver? So I think that, that this is only going to give Toyota's Japanese drivers some really good opportunity to get some running in F1, because otherwise they may not have gotten opportunities like this. So I think that this potentially opens a door for those drivers like Ryo Hirakawa or Ritamo Miyata.
It'll be great opportunities if they get their foot in the door through this technical alliance. One of the things I'm just really excited about as a motorsports fan, where you see Toyota Gazoo Racing presence in World Rally Championship, World Endurance. We've seen a couple stock cars in the United States with Toyota Gazoo liveries. You can see Toyota Gazoo presence and Formula One. If you're a fan of Toyota Gazoo, you can say you're involved with every major motorsport. Just something to be really excited about.
Supercars as well,
yeah.
Supercars.
Don't forget down the pipe down in Australia. One thing quickly before we move on from this story, one thing I worry about, talks about drivers there. There's a couple of drivers I worry about in the Toyota family. Kalle Rovanperä, Elvin Evans, all of their WRC guys. I hope, and the WRC as a whole, I hope they have been promised by Toyota, we are not going anywhere. If the Formula One snowball rolls for Toyota, what will happen to WRC? Because there's rumors about Hyundai perhaps ending their involvement with their hypercar project coming online. This now with Toyota as well, and as you say, they've got fingers in many pies around the world now and adding to them. I hope that the top of the WRC chain is going to survive this, because if we come down, it was a struggle for WRC many years ago, and it was just Citroen and Ford in the sort of late noughties before Volkswagen and whatnot came back in. At this rate, we could be ending up with just M Sport in WRC as the only big Ford-backed manufacturer if Toyota and Hyundai decide to pull out. So that's something that we do need to keep an eye on over the next 6 to 8 months, I would guess.
Yeah, I have to say, because when you look at Toyota Gazoo's presence, which field, the smallest, World Rally Championship, which one where it seems more in doubt, World Rally Championship. So it'll be really interesting. See what happens. Of course, any development right here on Grid Network. Subscribe. The latest news always every Wednesday on Grid Tonight. With that said, let's go into another driver trying to improve their situation, climb up the ladder again. But this time, it's Hailie Deegan switching from stock cars to open wheel racing in 2025. Deegan will begin a new career path away from NASCAR and join the Road to Indy driver full time in Indy NXT for HMD Motorsport. She'll drive the number 38 Dallara and will make her Indy NXT debut on Friday at the Chris Griffin Memorial Test at Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course. Deegan will also compete in the Formula Regional America race weekend later this month at Circus of America. In a statement, Deegan acknowledged that she has a lot to learn in a new discipline of motorsport, but she's ready for that challenge and plans to soak up as much information as she can before her Indy NXT debut at March 2025 St. Petersburg Grand Prix, of course, at St. Pete, Florida. Team principal Mike Marini said that Deegan has already taken the switch to open wheel racing very seriously because she already been to the team's shop. She's also been looking for a place to stay in the Indianapolis area so she can be closer to the team and work with her engineers. For more information on the story, tune in for future episodes of Women in Motorsports photo courtesy of HMD Motorsports. Now, Kobe, given her struggle in stock car racing, was this the right time for Deegan to make that switch to Indy NXT? And do you agree with her decision for her to enter to Formula Regional America race at Circuits of the Americas?
Well, Joe, this is definitely an interesting decision for Hailie Deegan, and for starters, I want to say that she's 23 years old right now, so there's still there's still plenty of time for her to carve out a career somewhere. And yeah, when she was doing her NASCAR program, she had quite a number of struggles, and she obviously didn't live up to what everyone expected to see from her. So and she lost a ride obviously earlier this year in the Xfinity Series with AM Racing. Many people wonder what's Hailie Deegan gonna do next, and now we found that out. She's going to try to get on the road to Indy, and maybe we'll see if she can try to go to the NTT IndyCar Series. And I do want to say, when you look at the Hailie Deegan situation, that maybe stock car racing, wasn't her strength as a driver. Maybe she can go to open wheel racing, and this might be a little bit easier for her. Maybe this will suit her skill set as a driver, but I definitely think it's going to be a massive adjustment for her, because stock car racing, open wheel racing, day and night difference. There's going to be a lot of things that she learned in stock car racing that she's going to have to unlearn in open wheel racing. So it's definitely going to be a massive challenge for her. It kind of like, when we saw Jamie Chadwick come over, obviously Jamie Chadwick, she had an open wheel racing experience before she came to Indy NXT, unlike Hailie Deegan, who doesn't have any open wheel racing experience. I think we're going to have to give, Hailie some time to get up to speed in these cars and see what she's able to do. Like we saw Jamie Chadwick in year 2 in Indy NXT. She was light years better than what she was in her rookie year in this series. And I think, and just like Chadwick, I think Deegan's going to need time in this series to see what she's made of. And it's good to hear from the team principal, Mike Marini, saying that Deegan is taking this very seriously, because when you change disciplines like this, especially a discipline that's very different compared to stock cars, you're definitely going to need to be super serious about it. Moving to the Indianapolis area help, just like when you want to be in NASCAR, moving to the Charlotte area is very helpful. And that she's already been at the shop, she's going to run the test on Friday. And Jamie Chadwick is not on that entry list, just throwing it out there, which is very interesting as rumors continue to swirl about her future, if she'll return for another year of Indy NXT or potentially move up to the NTT IndyCar Series. Yeah, so we'll definitely have to continue watching Jamie Chadwick's situation there. I thought it was very interesting that she's not on the Indy NXT entry list for the test coming up on Friday. But getting back to Hailie Deegan, I think it's very smart for HMD Motorsports to have her run this Formula Regional Americas race. I know it's not the Indy NXT Series, but it's open wheel in a car that that's similar to what she's going to be racing in Indy NXT. So I think getting that open wheel racing experience at the end of this year is going to be very crucial in her development as she starts this new career path. So definitely going to be watching Hailie Deegan this Friday and at the end of the month when she races at COTA, and all next year as she starts to get up to speed on the road to Indy. We're really looking forward to seeing what she's able to do here.
Yeah, a lot of pros and cons, I feel like, in this story. Big pro that she's with like one of the big teams. I know there is really only 2 big teams in Indy NXT, HMD and, of course, Andretti. But she's got a prime ride there with a good team that know how to win races. It will take her plenty of time. There's been a lot of tracks on the schedule that she's never even been to, let alone driven around. So that's going to be big. Obviously, Joe, you mentioned St. Pete at the beginning of the year. I would hazard a guess that Hailie Deegan has never run a street track in her life, outside of the simulator, of course, apart from maybe Chicago last year. I have to rack my brain on that one. But in an open wheel, obviously, it's going to be hugely different to what she's used to, as you say, Kobe. She's going to do that Formula Regional Americas race. That's a good start. It'll be interesting to see what other extracurricular activities, perhaps, let's say, she'll do throughout the off season, because INDY NXT testing will be limited. But what other cars can she get in and just drive round wherever racetracks that she can get to, just to keep up to speed and progressing and such like. I will have to admit that I do not expect to see much from her in her first season. As I mentioned, completely new series, new car, all these new tracks. It's going to take some time. Hopefully the team give her the time to get her feet wet, as it were, and get settled in over this first year. And hopefully she can just get to the end of races. What we don't want to see her doing is, as we see with drivers from time to time, getting caught up in their own accidents or other people's, have mechanicals or something like that, and they don't get the laps in, even if they're running about, round 5 or 6 seconds off the pace at the back of the field. It's all the reps that you get from doing that. So it'll be interesting to see how she goes, and if Jamie Chadwick comes back next year and does even a partial INDY NXT schedule. We're still, as you mentioned, Kobe, up in the air about what Jamie is perhaps going to be doing in 2025. There's going to be that, two big female comparisons in the series, and it will give Hailie a target, I guess, as well to go after in Jamie as the prime female runner in the series. So I don't think she's going to do particularly well. We'll have to wait and see, but there's lots and lots to learn, and hopefully she's given the time to do that.
It's going to be one of those deals where I think a lot of people will be looking at comparing her to Jamie Chadwick. Another driver I'm almost thinking of comparing her to from 2022, 2023, Ernie Francis Jr. If you remember, Trans Am background, then he did some Tony Stewart's dirt track racing, the SRX experience. Next, he goes to Indy Lights. He had, for the most part, top 10 finishes, but in a series where you're trying to get wins, move up the ladder, I believe his best finish was third place. He has at least one podium recall of in INDY NXT. I think that's one driver I'll be almost looking at how Hailie Deegan's doing with her first year and second year at INDY NXT. Overall, this is one of those fields where everybody's trying to get to that next level. The road to Indy ladder system, the scholarship available, the potential of a seat at the NTT IndyCar Series, a lot allowing her, and I'm really curious just to see how she's going to make this transition work, because overall, I think a lot of eyes are going to be brought over her at Circuits of the Americas. That's just going to get more people just watching, seeing what she's doing, and it will be interesting because in a stock car, especially what she's used to in a truck series and Xfinity series, you can set up the car as much as you want, but it's still going to be slipping and sliding, loose, tight, battling that car. Now you're going to be working on a vehicle. You can fine tune it much more for the maximum amount of grip and handling. Still going to be a little bit of a handful. One of the big things, the power these INDY NXT cars has, going to be very interesting to see how she could handle everything with that. Now let's check out some of the comments in the chat room. John asks, will her races be on Fox? Kobe, I know there's a deal with IndyCar. All the races are on Fox, but when it comes to INDY NXT, what is the plan for INDY NXT?
Oh yeah, the INDY NXT races are gonna be on Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2, just like you're gonna be able to watch the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series and the Arkham Menard Series on those channels as well. So all of the INDY NXT races will be on the Fox family of networks, but it's gonna be on FS1 and FS2. As of right now, there's not scheduled to be any of those races Big Fox. But Joe, I wanted to bounce off a point before we go into the next comment. I wanted to bring up what you just said about Ernie Francis Jr. I think that's an excellent comparison because Ernie Francis Jr. Comes from a similar style of racing. With the Trans Am stuff, those big heavy cars that slide around. Yeah. So, but we saw Ernie Francis Jr. He got 2 years, in INDY NXT competition, and he wasn't able to, do as well as we thought he was gonna do, and now. Ernie Francis Jr. is he was out of INDY NXT, and it doesn't, open wheel racing career seems to be over now. Now Roger Penske saw him competing in SRX and thought he had potential, to potentially go to the IndyCar series. And Ernie's a really good driver. He's won many championships in Trans Am, so we know he knows how to wheel a car. But sometimes, you go to a different discipline, your talent doesn't always translate over. As we've seen sometimes with open wheel drivers who try to go over to NASCAR, and then we saw like Jimmy Johnson go over to IndyCar and saw him struggle a lot because it's just so different. That's the point I was making about Hailie Deegan. Maybe she'll run a lot better in open wheel racing because maybe her skill set is better tailored to these open wheel cars than it is a stock car. But yeah, I think we could potentially see some struggles like we saw with Ernie Francis Jr. because it is a big difference. But who knows? Maybe she could surprise us and run better than we expect. As I see Adam Limmeries here says he thinks Hailie Deegan is going to struggle in NA next because it's very competitive with strong talent. Totally agree with you there, Adam. I think it's going to be quite a struggle, especially in year one, and we'll see how she progresses throughout the year, and if she gets a second or even a third year, see how she's able to do after that. And before we move on, Joe, Matt, I wanted to get you guys' opinion. I know I brought it up in our private grid chat about Jamie Chadwick not being on the entry list and all of that. And then one of our team members wondered if she's not on the entry list because she may have obligation with Sky Sports this weekend at Circuit of Americas for the Formula One United States Grand Prix. But do you guys think it's telling that she's not on the entry list? Because I know she tested the Andretti IndyCar at Barber and it went extremely well. And Jamie was very excited, really loved the feeling of the IndyCar. And I know over the last few months or so among our grid team, we've been talking about this story quite a bit with Jamie Chadwick, wondering like, what is she going to do? Should she get another year of Indy Next? Because if she goes to Indy Next, she's probably progressed enough where she could be one of the main protagonists to go out there and win the championship. Or does she go up to IndyCar in some way or form? So I just wanted to see what you guys thought about Jamie not being on the entry list, and could this signal that she's potentially going to IndyCar next year? I'll let you go first, Joe, then Matt.
Yeah, that's really something I'm going to be focusing on is where is she this weekend? Is she in Circuits America with Sky Sports? That might say something. But then, of course, I think this is sort of a really tricky situation. If you're Jamie Chadwick, you go to Indy Next for our third season, you're expected to be one of the championship favorites. What if you don't get that championship? How does that impact your opportunity to go into IndyCar? I've said long ago, I'm curious if she'll do a part-time schedule, potentially the Indy 500 and another unready-built car, maybe a race here or there too, and maybe Indy Next could be a potential. But it is a difficult situation to try to make that decision because you go in IndyCar, you're going to be a rookie. You're not expected to win a race right away, but you do have to perform. Just because you're a rookie doesn't mean you're automatically guaranteed a second season. If you go to Indy Next and you're the championship favorite and you don't deliver, people are going to wonder, are you really ready for that next level?
I don't know what the Sky lineup is for COTA this weekend, so I can't confirm or deny on what she might or might not be doing on the television this week. You're right. If she comes back next year, she will be, surely has to be one of the favourites for the championship. But what I will say is, I don't know what the Indy Next testing budgets for teams are. Testing's expensive. And if she's trying to find her way into an IndyCar, is she saving her cash to put into that program rather than having a day's testing in a next car, which she perhaps doesn't need going into next year? That's one possible theory. But as you say, we'll keep a track and abreast of this over the winter, and hopefully it's. I mean, if she turns up at the 500, even if it's just the 500, Joe, and does the 500 next year as a one-off, I mean that'll be great. But I think, as you say, if she comes back into Indy next year, she's got to be one of the title favourites in one of the championship's best cars. And as I think I said a couple of weeks ago on the show, Indy Next is becoming. A couple of years ago, it was almost dead, and now it's stacked with talent coming from all over the place. So people like Kyle Collette coming from Formula 3 this year and having a go in it didn't go particularly well, but again, he was another man learning circuits and learning the car and things. So in his first year, so it's coming that pathway. And if you look at couple of people, I can't find a name off the top of my head, but people that we expected to do well in something like Formula 2, and it got to a third season and they still hadn't won the championship or been winning races, it kind of fades away a little bit back to your Ernie Francis point from before. So you need to be in a couple of season and a half of learning, and then you're winning races. And we saw that from Jamie this year. So hopefully, if she does come back for a full season tilt, then she'll certainly be one of the favourites for it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how everything all shapes up for Jamie Chadwick in 2025. John asks, is the test going to be streamed somewhere? That's a good question. Jacoby, do you know if it's going to be like on Indie Radio or something to test?
I don't know for sure about the live stream, but earlier in the week I got the email from Penske Entertainment regarding this test at Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course on Friday, and the only thing they say like where you can like view the test, it just provided IndyCar.com/leaderboard. So I guess you can only watch timing and scoring from this test session, so you can keep up with who's going to be driving at this test. And we also got sent the full entry list as well. And Matt, to your point about drivers who expected to do well in, say, Formula 3, Formula 2, one Formula 2 driver who's on the entry list is Dennis Hauger. You know, we thought we certainly expected a lot more of Dennis Hauger in Formula 2, but unfortunately, you know, it doesn't look like his road to F1 is going to be possible. So Hauger, he's going to be testing with Andretti on Friday, and we'll see where it goes. I see there are some rumors that he's going to be switching to the road to Indy next year in the Indy NXT series and try to make a career over here in the NTT IndyCar series. And like Adam said in his previous comment, this Indy NXT field is very competitive now. And I know sometimes, you know, we criticize Penske Entertainment with some of the decisions they made, but one of the best things that they've done, yeah, I know they took away the Freedom 100, you know, and a lot of people are upset about that. But we definitely have to give credit where it's due, and they definitely deserve a lot of credit for bringing back the Indy NXT series, you know, into a very healthy state where when you look at the quality of talent here, maybe at some point it will rival what we see on the F2 grid, because this is an extremely competitive field, and looking forward to seeing what next year is going to bring. And got some more comment here from John saying, is the next series below IndyCar? Yes, you are correct. The Indy NXT series is basically equivalent to what Formula 2 is on the road to F1 and the NASCAR Xfinity series on the stock car side of things. And Matthew Owen says a pretty exciting tweet on Sunday about the IndyCar on Fox broadcast lineup. Let's hope that it's all true. Oh yeah, Jenna Fryer said that she's heard that Alan Bestwick is going to be joining the booth IndyCar on Fox next year alongside Townsend Bell and James Hinchcliffe, you know, coming over from NBC Sports. If that's true, I think I think Fox, you know, knocked it right out of the ballpark. So looking forward to getting the official confirmation on that so we can go into depth and talk about that here on the air.
A lot of excitement for IndyCar. John asking, watch Indy race control on Friday. What time is the test on Friday? Do you recall the test time?
I would guess it's probably an all-day.
I'm looking at
as much time as they can.
Yeah, I just pulled up the email about the test, and they said the test is going to start at 9 a.m. Eastern time, and it's going to end at 4 on Friday.
They'll probably have an hour at lunchtime or whatever to stop. So you've got all day to have a Google tab open, John, and watch the timing and scoring page go up and down like this all day and see where Hailie Deegan ends up on that page.
Yeah, a lot of fun testing. I wish it was going to be on TV or something as well too. Adam, Fox Sports did promote the 2025 Indy 500 and Grand Prix of Arlington on the Dallas Cowboys game. A lot of folks, of course, United States American football, huge audience. Glad to see that and promotion for the race. And then John asking, who would the announcers be for Indy next year? Sounds like, according to the rumor from Jenna Fryer, who tweeted, Alan Bestwick, Hinchcliffe, and Townsend. So it'll be very similar to what we've had in the past. Very curious to see who's going to make it to pit road as well too. And of course, as all those news gets confirmed, we'll be reporting it right here on Grid Tonight. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. We got a busy race weekend, a lot to talk about, including our third story, Meyer Shank Racing. Of course, we all know in IndyCar, well, now they have confirmed a two-car lineup in the 2025 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship season. After taking a year off from IMSA competition, the team returns under the name Acura Meyer Shank Racing, thanks to an extended partnership with Honda Racing Corporation USA in GTP class. And the number 60 Acura, they're going to be the band back together again because Tom Bloomquist, Colin Brown returned to the same car they shared in 2023. That was the year Bloomquist and Brown won the Rolex 24 at Daytona alongside co-driver Helio Castroneves and Simon Pagenaud. However, they lost the points earned from that race because they were found guilty of manipulating the tire pressure danger, which really angered Acura at the time. So overall, the data that was manipulated caused a little bit of confusion to everybody. It's one of those deals where Acura really didn't want that, and I think a lot of people are going to forgive them for that kind of mistake for not doing it again, manipulating the tire pressure and the data with that. And also, if it weren't for the points penalty from Daytona that year, they would have won the 2023 GTP Championship. And now they have the chance to get that title that got away in the number 93. Meyer Shank Racing signed Renger van der Zande and Nick Giololi for the full season. Van der Zande comes out from Chip Ganassi Racing, fresh off a victory in the Moto Petit Le Mans, and Giololi leaves BMW M Team Rahal Letterman Lanigan to switch to Acura. Team co-owner Meyer Shank Racing says the team is looking forward to returning to IMSA and is excited about extending their partnership with a two-car GTP program. Photo courtesy of Meyer Shank Racing. This was some big news that I was excited about. And of course, after Moto Petit Le Mans, the IMSA, the excitement, can't Daytona come around soon enough? But Kobe, did Meyer Shank Racing do a good job with the driver lineup for 2025?
Yes, they did. And I want to start off by saying it's so good to see Meyer Shank Racing coming back to IMSA next year. The paddock just doesn't seem the same without them. And like you're saying, I'm sure Acura has definitely forgiven them by now for that. And also that championship they got away, I think they can definitely go out and get it next year because they're ready to go, and they show how serious they are about, just getting the band back together, because that's a cool group of characters that you can see in this photo right here. Colin Brown, Tom Blomqvist, they were very, very strong together in that 2023 season. And to bring back that driver pair, and I think that's a very smart move by them. And I think they can go out there and be one of the main championship contenders next year, despite spending a year away from this. This team has a lot of professionals that been there, done that, just 1 year away, but they're ready to go out there and grab the GTP title and compete for wins and championships all throughout the year. I think it's going to be like they never left. And also good to see the team continue to stick by Tom Blomqvist after, his short stint in IndyCar didn't go really that well. We saw Blomqvist this year as the endurance driver at Action Express Race alongside Pippo Durrani and Jack Aiken, just to keep himself fresh throughout the year, in those enduros. And now Blomqvist back full time in IMSA with a team that's continued to stick by him. I know IndyCar didn't really go well for Tom, but Michael Shank said that he wanted to hold on to Tom, and we figured, at some point they would be returning to IMSA, and I see why he wanted to hold on to Tom. Tom may not, be a successful IndyCar driver, but we know he knows how to get it done in a prototype, and he's definitely one of the best out there when it comes to top level prototype and sports car racing. So I think getting Brown and Blomqvist back is a really big deal. And looking at the other lineup in the 93, Renger van der Zande, Nick Yellerly, Van der Zande, won Petit Le Mans in a dramatic fashion with the headlights going out and them trying to get it turned back on. And we know Van der Zande, he was going to be a free agent with Chip Ganassi Racing and leaving IMSA at the end of the 2024 season. So Van der Zande looking for a home. It seems like he's found one here at Meyer Shank Racing, and we'll see how it goes. I think he'll definitely be a good fit with this organization. And Nick Yellerly, have a little bit more about him leaving BMW a little bit later in the program, but at some point, you just need a change of scenery. I know he was able to, get a win there for BMW in the GTP class, but sometimes, you just want to see what's out there and try to do a change of scenery, and we'll see how this change goes for him. But all in all, I think Meyer Shank Racing knocked it right out of the ballpark with a very strong GTP driver lineup. I know we're going to see a lot of, as I said on the wrap-up show, we're going to see a lot of changes next year in GTP with drivers moving around all over the place, and we'll see if their rivals are going to counter with other strong driver lineups, and I'm sure they will.
It's funny how that happens in sports cars, isn't it? We have driver pairings that stick together for a while, and then when one changes, all of the dominoes fall over, it seems like, and we have multiple changes going on everywhere. Really, really strong lineup. But you mentioned Kobe and Joe. Tom and Colin were sensational during 2023, coming up short on the championship after that point penalty at Daytona. even though they won the race. Even the year before, they were winning races in that team in 22. So that's really good. And of course, Collins' season throughout this year has kind of been cut short with the CrowdStrike issues. So he's been on the sideline for a little while, but getting the band back together is going to be really good. That's going to be one of the title contenders for sure. But then you look across to the 93 and the other side of the garage with, paddock stalwart Rengo van der Zande, who's been in the American sports car scene all the way back to the American Le Mans Series days when he was running in the Prototype Challenge class. So he's been around a very, very long time. And Nick Yellowly, who's been come through the feeder series categories in Europe all the way up to Formula 3, was a race winner in GP3 as well before it changed. Had a long career with BMW, as you're going to get to, Kobe, in a minute, and was part of their first win in the IMSA paddock with the new car. So he's a really, really fast driver. So they've got sort of an A and an A1 car there at MSR for IMSA next year. And as you say, Joe, it's only just finished, but we're already, the mouth is watering and ready for Daytona in January, because it always kicks off with a bang. And we're going to have plenty of new driver combinations and cars to talk about when we get to the Rolex at the end of January. Can't wait for it.
The end of January, Rolex, the entry list we got for IMSA, the competition we're looking at. With this news, 2025, cannot miss sports car coverage. And of course, our traditional Rolex 24 hours of Daytona pre-race, first pre-race show of the sports car series for 2025. Subscribe to us right here in the Grid Network. And of course, for sports cars, the Grid Endurance Performance Index, #Grid Endurance. Got to follow it. Matt, how is everything looking with the Grid Endurance Performance Index?
Thank you, Joe. Updates to come then from the Grid Endurance Performance Index from the weekend. And we just been talking about IMSA, so we'll start there because, as you say, it was the Petit Le Mans race at the weekend, the finale of the championship in dramatic fashion for Chip Ganassi Racing, with Rengo van der Zande, Sebastian Bourdais and Scott Dixon as their third driver, getting the victory on Saturday. That's yet another trophy for both Sebastian Bourdais and Scott Dixon. They were the winners in GTP and overall. LMP2 was won by Stephen Thomas, Mikkel Jensen and Hunter McElrea. GTD Pro was won by Frank Pereira, Jordan Pepper and Mirko Bortolotti for Lamborghini. And GTD was won by Conquest Racing, Manny Franco, Albert Costa and Cedric Sprazioli, getting the race victory. That means championship land looks like this. Dane Cameron and Felipe Nasr are the GTP champions for 2024 for Penske Porsche Motorsport. There was also a Porsche victory in the GTD Pro category, but single driver, Lauren Heinrich, getting the championship spoils all to himself aboard Rexy for AO Racing. The Le Mans Prototype 2 category was won by Nick Ball and Tom Dillman. And in GT Daytona, Philip Ellis and Russell Ward, the champions there for Winwood Racing. So congratulations to everybody there. And as I say, we're looking very much forward to IMSA getting back going again already, only 3 days removed from the season finale of 2024. That wasn't the only race in the Grid Endurance Performance Index across the weekend, because at Barcelona we had the final 2 races, dramatic they were, with crashes and rain affected, of the GT World Challenge Europe. Maxi Goetz and Jules Gounon finally getting their first victory of the season. They're one of the championship favourites going in, but they've had a rough go of things all throughout the year, and they got the win on Saturday. Sven Muller and Patrick Niederhauser winning for Porsche on Sunday. It was close in the championship, but Mauro Engel and Lucas Hauer outlasted Dries Van Voort and Charles Weerts to take home the Sprint Cup victory. And both of those teams are only 9 points apart in the Endurance Cup, with one more race to go at Jeddah at the end of the year in November. So that's the last race of the sort of European base. I know it's in Saudi Arabia, but the European race base season for GT World Challenge. Here is the points update for you from the weekend. And we have a new entry in the top 10 after the weekend's races at Petit Le Mans. That's Colton Herta there, sliding into 4th position. He's had an up and down year in IndyCar, but his sports car racing activities have found him sliding into 4th place there in the championship amongst all those Porsche drivers. It is only Colton Herta and Charles Weerts there in the top 10 that have not driven a Porsche in 2024. Andre Lotterer and Lawrence Van Voort continue to be the top 2 in the championship, and they will team together in a few weeks' time for the World Endurance Championship finale in Bahrain. Here is the look at the top 50. And we're heading into actually one of the busiest weekends of racing throughout the whole year, week 30 of the Grid EPI. Deep breath, and I'll tell you exactly what's going on this weekend, because there is a lot. The European Le Mans Series finale is at Portimao, we have a 3-hour race for the GT World Challenge Australia Championship there at Sydney Motorsports Park. That's on Saturday night into the evening race, so that should be exciting. The Nürburgring Langstrecke Series is back after quite a long autumn break for NLS 7. Super GT's also had a pretty long break, and they're back at the weekend at Autopolis on Sunday. And also on Sunday, it's the finales of DTM and the ADAC GT Masters at Hockenheim. So a massive weekend of the Grid Endurance Performance Index this weekend. It's going to be a long segment next week as I run through all of the winners from all of those classes and races, but we'll tell you all about it on the show next week. Now time to hand to Kobe. Plenty more headlines from the world of motorsport this week.
Thanks, Matt. And if you guys watched the wrap-up show on Sunday night, where we said tune in to Grid tonight for your latest silly season news and updates from IMSA. So here we go with a whole bunch of sports car racing news from IMSA. And with that said, a new manufacturer is going to be joining IMSA in 2025 with Cupra bringing its new TCR car to the Michelin Pilot Challenge. Cupra will become the 19th different manufacturer competing in IMSA Sanctioned Series. The Cupra Leon VZ TCR car was launched earlier this year in May, and we've seen the car compete in just over 40 races where they've showcased good speed and reliability. Cupra has finished on the podium at tracks such as Spa-Francorchamps, Estoril, Brno, and Imola. The manufacturer also claimed the TCR Europe title with Franco Girolami behind the wheel, including endurance races at Interlagos and Mexico City. Photo courtesy of IMSA. The 2025 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship entry list has been released. Among the GTP, LMP2, GTD Pro, and GTD classes, we'll see a total of 48 full-time entries, with 56 entries competing for the Michelin Endurance Cup and more than 60 entries expected for the Rolex 24 at Daytona on January 25th, 2025. IMSA President John Doonan revealed that they've received nearly 90 requests for spots on the grid for the Daytona season opener, but unfortunately, the track just doesn't have enough space for that many cars, but it just shows you where we are right now with the health of sports car racing, that nearly 90 cars, wanted to be on the grid for the season opener at Daytona, which is mind-blowing to think about. And looking at the GTP class, we'll see 11 full-time entries as Meyer Shank Racing returns with 2 Acuras. Proton competition, they're returning, but scaling back to an endurance-only program, and the Iron Lynx Lamborghini will also return for the Enduros. And LMP2, we're going to have 12 full-time entries, and as we mentioned on Grid Live Wrap-Up, Inter-Europol competition and PR1 Matheson Motorsports will run separate teams next year after working together. We'll see a new entry in the class from Pratt Miller Motorsports. That's the same team that fields the 2 Corvettes in GTD Pro. And speaking of GTD Pro, we'll mostly see the same teams return, with Paul Miller Racing expanding to a 2-car program as the Heart of Racing Aston Martin will exit the class as they enter GTP next season. Also missing from the GTD Pro entry list is the number 62 Risi Competizione Ferrari, who haven't announced their 2025 plans yet. And one final note, the Automobili Lamborghini team will enter the endurance races, as more GTD Pro entries are expected to be announced later on for Daytona. So the list you see right now for GTD Pro, that is not final, because IMSA says they expect to see more teams in the All-Pro GT category. And then we have another healthy year of GTD entries with many of the same teams returning. But we also have some new teams that are coming in, like Vanderster Racing stepping up from Michelin Pilot Challenge, and DXGT Racing coming from GT World Challenge America, plus endurance race entries from AF Corsa, Triarsi Competizione, the Iron Dames, and Lone Star Racing. Also expect to see some Rolex 24 only entries in GTD. Graphics you saw in this section, courtesy of IMSA. And in a story first reported by Sports Car 365, longtime sports car racer Richard Westbrook retired from racing after IMSA season finale at Motul Petit Le Mans in the 2000s. He won championships in the Porsche Carrera Cup GB, Porsche Super Cup, and FIA GT2. And after a short stint as a Porsche factory driver early in his career, the driver nicknamed Westy moved on to be a factory driver for Corvette Racing and spent several seasons as a Ford factory driver for Chip Ganassi Racing. And given his early ties to Porsche, it seemed fitting for him to end his racing career behind the wheel of Porsche's 963 GTP prototype for JDC Miller Motorsports. And throughout his career, Westbrook spent time in IMSA and the FI World Endurance Championship, but he was mostly known for his accomplishment and tenure in IMSA, which included notable class victories in the Rolex 24 Daytona, the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, and the Salem 6 Hours of the Glen. Westbrook told Sports Car 365 that he made the decision halfway through this year to retire from racing, and felt it was just time to pass the baton to the next generation of sports car drivers. In retirement, he plans to focus on his brewing business, which is based in his home country, the United Kingdom. On social media, Westbrook said he's grateful to all the wonderful people that he had the privilege to work with over the years, and he'll miss them all. Photo courtesy of JDC Miller Motorsports. And as promised, after spending the last 6 years as a BMW factory driver, Nick Yellowlee's final race with the German manufacturer was IMSA season finale at Moto Petit Le Mans in 2019. He joined BMW M Motorsport and found instant success by winning the China GT Championship. He also won the 24 Hours of Nürburgring and the 24 Hours of Spa with BMW for the last couple of seasons. He's been full-time in IMSA's GTP class, driving for BMW M Team RLL, and he won the very first race for BMW's GTP prototype at Watkins Glen alongside co-driver Connor D. Filippi. Yellowlee said he's incredibly grateful for BMW and enjoyed his time as a factory driver there. Photo courtesy of BMW M Motorsport. Short track racing star Bubba Pollard is returning to the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday, November 2nd at Martinsville Speedway. Pollard will drive the number 26 Sam Hunt Racing Toyota with sponsorship from Sani America. And that number 26 will be driving Sam Hunt Racing. That's actually the iconic number of Bubba Pollard because he drives the number 26 in his super late model races, which is very interesting. And he made his Xfinity debut earlier this year at Richmond behind the wheel of the number 88 Junior Motorsport Chevrolet. Pollard really impressed and showed his short track savvy en route to a top 10 finish in his very first Xfinity race. He said he really enjoyed his experience at Richmond, and he's excited to be back in an Xfinity car again in Martinsville, which is another short track, also known as his bread and butter. Photo courtesy of Sam Hunt Racing. Colic Racing is making a crew chief change to his NASCAR Cup Series program. Travis Mack, who was the crew chief for the number 16 Chevrolet, departs the team effective immediately. Last weekend, Mack was moved over to the number 13 to work with Shane Van Gisbergen at the Charlotte Roval. Starting this weekend, Darren Grubb will serve as the number 16 team's crew chief, reuniting with SVG after winning the Chicago Street Race together last year. This is SVG's second crew chief change this season. His crew chief in the Xfinity Series, Bruce Slicker, left the number 97 team, and Kevin Walter replaced him. Graphic courtesy of Colic Racing. Taylor Gray will move up to the NASCAR Xfinity Series full-time next year. Gray will drive the number 54 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing after running select Xfinity races for the team this year. In the series debut at Richmond, Gray earned an impressive third-place finish. This year, he made the playoff in the Truck Series with Tricon Garage, and now he gets to move up to the next level. Gray said he feels like he learned a lot running some Xfinity races in the number 19 Toyota Supra this year, and thinks it'll give him a head start in 2025. Graphic courtesy of Joe Gibbs Racing. And another interesting fact about Taylor Gray's number 54 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota Supra that he'll drive next year, NASCAR Cup Series driver Ty Gibbs is actually listed as the owner of that car for 2025. So there's something interesting there for Ty Gibbs. And with that said, gonna turn over to Matt for everyone's favorite game, Pick a Winner.
Thank you, Kobe. A couple more races to do in Pick a Winner as the season begins to wind down. We were talking about this before we went on air. It looks like Matt B's got it all wrapped up, but you have still got plenty of time to get yourself on the Pick a Winner board. And with the fact that Formula One is back, that means there is Formula One picks to do tonight, and there is a sprint race at COTA this weekend to pick from. We're going to start off with that one before we get onto MotoGP sprint at Phillip Island. Formula One at the Circuit of the Americas and the US Grand Prix. I've still got my fingers crossed that this championship battle is actually going to come to fruition, so I'm going to go with Lando Norris to win the sprint race on Saturday afternoon in Texas.
I have to agree with you, Matt. I'm also going to go with Lando Norris. Is really crazy because in the past we'd all be picking Max Verstappen to win all these sprint races and all these Grand Prix, but I think Max Verstappen's winless streak is going to continue on. Who you got, Joe?
I'm torn. I think I'm leaning towards Max Verstappen just because Circuits of America track has been good to him. I just think he's going to get it done and his winless streak and essentially start looking at trying to claim another championship.
Big weekend in Formula One, then it could be for the way that we then look at the next few races after. We've got triple header, of course, with Austin, then Mexico, and then Brazil to come up over the next couple of weeks. There is the lead board on screen, as you can see. Matt has a pretty unassailable lead by the looks of things at the top of the Pick a Winner standings. Get your picks in for the weekend's action by using the hashtag Pick a Winner. The post will be up later on this evening. Second pick a winner race to do on the show this evening is MotoGP. After their week off, they are back, and they are at Phillip Island, one of the best tracks on the schedule. The championship battle continues between Jorge Martin and Pecco Bagnaia, of course. I am going to curve away from I'm going to keep picking him for the sprint races, and that being Jorge Martin. I've just got that feeling after Japan, when he fell off in the lead, that Pedro Acosta is going to come through for KTM and win at Phillip Island on Saturday in the sprint race.
That's a great pick, Matt. But I'm going to continue to ride the guy who usually does well in these sprint races. Give me Jorge Martin, guy. Who you got, Joe?
I love Phillips Island. The MotoGP action there is great. I'm anticipating it's going to be just as much fun. A little bit of wild card. I'm going to go with a rider that could use a win. Marco Beschecchi. I think he could pull it off, beat a bit of a surprise winner in MotoGP. That's it.
That would be a surprise. And of course, Phillip Island known for weather and not the good kind. So that might throw your spanner into the works over the MotoGP weekend down there just outside of Melbourne. So get your pick a winner selections in for, I guess, both sprint races in F1 and MotoGP and the Grand Prix on the Sunday. And of course, NASCAR heads to Las Vegas on Sunday for the next round of the playoffs. So all of those pick a winner points still up for grabs. See if you can get your name on the board. And if you get a few right towards the end, you'll end up being there on the first page. You only need 2 or more to get yourself on the tally chart, with Kobe in 3rd, myself in 5th. Where is Joe? You are 10th. And Josh, we're thinking you, Josh. Hope you're doing well after your torrid couple of weeks. He is in 12th position. Hopefully we'll have Josh back on the show over the next couple of weeks, and he will be involved in, but he's not tonight because Joe is here, Hots and Knots from the weekend that was. Joe, as you are the guest on your own show as such, you can have the floor for Hots.
A hot. I would say a hot would have to go to, and it seems a little bit obvious, Kyle Larson. That team, when they're good, they're hard to beat. Bristol, now the Roval, but they got to be that good. I think they'll be good in Vegas. That's a track he loves. I think they're going to ride the momentum. Kyle Larson, that's one of my hots, I have to say. Another hot, IMSA. What a season. 2024. Cannot wait to 2025. Those are my 2 big hots from this past weekend.
I've got a small laundry list of hots and knots. Hots, Roval was great. I thought it was a really good race on Sunday at the Roval. We had all the points drama in the late stages of Reddick versus Logano and who was going to be in position to get through. And then in the end, it didn't matter because Alex Bowman got thrown out for his underweight. But during the race, well, obviously before we knew that was going to happen, that was some good drama, really good drama, I thought. Talking of drama, British Superbikes at the weekend at Brands Hatch. Kyle Ride versus Tommy Bridewell for the championship. It came down to the last corner of the last race of the championship to decide the winner of the whole thing. You can't ask for more than that. Congratulations to Kyle Ride. And he's going to be in the World Superbike paddock this weekend as a wild card at Jerez with that team. So they've had a big week at OMG Racing, and Kyle Ride is the new BSB champion. The tickets have gone on sale today, excuse me, for the next year, 2025 Spa 24-hour race. A 5-day general admission ticket to Spa for the 24 hours, €55. Oh. €55 for 5 days, including 24 hours of racing. Don't tell me that's not good value. It's incredible stuff. I might even go again myself. That is like, remember in Top Gear when they used to have the fridge at the end of the cool wall? Put that in there. That is awesome. Love that. I think, and also hot, which is going to be a knot too. I'll get to it. Brody Kostecki, after the year he's had, and we've documented it on this program, especially at the beginning of the year, for him and Todd Hazelwood to win at Bathurst at the weekend with Erebus after the year that they've had as a whole was just cool to see, with a very Australian sponsor of Chico Roll on the car for this one weekend as well. So big hot to Brody and to Todd, but there's more on Bathurst in knots in a moment, but I'll let Joe go first.
€55, that's less than $60. That's a steal for 5 days
for
of
5
race.
days.
24-hour race. Oh, man.
I don't know how much a pitch for camping is, but I don't think it'll be expensive.
I was going to say, you just need like a camping pass. You don't have to worry about a hotel. It's 24-hour racing, so you're not needing that room.
I slept in the car when I went. I stayed in a hotel up
man.
the road for the few days beforehand, but during the Saturday night, I slept in the car for 3 hours and went back to the track again.
Oh, that's awesome. That's definitely a big that has to be a to-do list on 2025. But let's get to the knots. Alex Bowman's team. What was that? Come on, 10 pounds. I know people speculate, well, he jumped the curve, something broke and fell off worth 10 pounds. Probably was on the track. Yeah, it could have been a piece of tungsten. We remember when Denny Hamlin lost that a few years ago on a pace lap,
Yes.
got in trouble. I'm just thinking, you had a great playoff run. Wasn't spectacular, but it was really good. And now you're out. That's a big knot. I think you might be going a little bit this way when it comes to Bathurst. To me, a good race. Okay, you got great racing, no cautions. There are those races. Considering I thought with the crashes we saw in the practice session qualifying, I thought this is going to be one of those crazy ones. Remind me of a couple years ago where it was a pretty straightforward race that Chittenden comes onto the track, and then next you know we have caution after caution and caution.
Yeah.
Didn't really see that. And I felt like, okay, it's still a huge race, still a lot of hype, but to me it fell flat.
Yeah, Richard Crail from the Race Talk did a really good piece about have we expected too much from Bathurst over the last 15 years. Like, as I always say, we can't have hair on fire races every single week. It just doesn't happen. So to have a little bit of a snooze, I've not seen it yet, but I've read a lot about it. It was it had to happen at some point. So maybe next year we'll get the crashes at every corner, and much like it, what was it, 10 years on from the 2014 race with the red flag for the track being ripped up and all the stuff that happened at the end and Mostert beating Whincup on the last lap. This time, not so good. Other knots from the weekend, and it relates to Bathurst, and I'm kind of quite surprised Kobe didn't put this in the script. There was a story that broke on Monday that an Erebus mechanic had been attacked after the race in Bathurst town while celebrating the story. Turns out to be that he attacked himself. Very, very strange. Like odd. Just go and look up the Erebus mechanic that story and search it out for yourself, because it's just typical Erebus from this season, from this last 12 months. Just it absolutely blows my mind. Other not, yeah, Bowman, as you say, had a great playoff run, like quietly under the radar, a little bit like Chase Elliott's been. Kind of that side of you've had Byron and Larson doing the winning and the contending for the victories, and then Elliott and Bowman just getting themselves through every week or doing enough. But then to have them fall out through a weight penalty, yeah, not good for the 48 team. Really not good. But it reprieves Joey Logano, who, what was it? He was on the couch when he heard that he was back in by the time he got home on Sunday night, and Team Penske roll on again. So maybe the Logano streak of being in the Final Four in all the even numbered years can continue, because a lot of people were quite upset about that on Sunday night, that streak had come to an end. So yeah, I think that's my only two knots. Adam says Race of Champions going to Sydney next year with Mick Schumacher confirmed and Sebastian Vettel. So Team Germany have got their lineup locked in at Marvel Stadium in Sydney for Race of Champions, which has been away in the snow for the last couple of years, and now it's back in a stadium for Sydney next year, which is going to be another new location, which is really cool. Went to it at Wembley the couple of times that it was there, and it is even though it was absolutely freezing cold, was a really, really cool event. So if you're in the Sydney area in the early part of next year and you can get yourself to Marvel Stadium, then get yourself a ticket for Race of Champions, because if they can get someone like a Van Gisbergen back, because he won't be doing anything in January unless he goes to the Rolex with Trackhouse, which has been mooted, or a McLaughlin or someone, and a couple of the supercars guys like a Will Brown, Brock Feeney, it's going to be a highlight telly event in the early part of the year.
That reminds me of a couple knots. The late caution and the Xfinity race. that essentially
yeah.
took away from Parker Kligerman.
Oh,
Oh, how many weeks in a row has NASCAR officiating been a topic of what are they doing? What's going on? Didn't happen in the Cup Series race, but you're telling me you didn't have a single person that was like, hey, we just had a car go under the tire wall. You should throw the caution now before waiting and waiting. So heartbreaking for him. Just a tough break. I was just heartbroken. Yeah, what a race weekend. We'll have more hot and not next weekend. Well, next Wednesday, right here on the Grid Network, Grid Tonight. With that said, let's take a look at our upcoming schedule. Saturday, Grid Live pre-race. We got Formula One, NASCAR. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Las Vegas, including F1 and MotoGP, plus the updated grid ranking. Monday, Grid Encore recapping the Xfinity Series race at Las Vegas. Ben and Brand on another Motorsport Monday. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Grid Network TV. Thank you for helping us reach over 1,000. We're now on the road to 2,000 subscribers, so hit that bell icon, get notifications, and subscribe. Big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin, Michelle, Mark, Rob, David, Matthew, for investing in the Grid Network through Patreon. We encourage you to make these investments to the Grid Network. These fine folks have been investing for a long time. Once we hit $500 a month, we can start sending our team to the track more frequently and much more regularly. This was a phenomenal year, and we're very excited for next year. I mean, 24 hours of spa. That is a possibility. We'd love to make that. And of course, a one-time contribution through Buy Me a Coffee, link in the video description. You can also do super chat in the chat room. You'll get your name on the board, invest as much as you want, and you can even buy a cup of coffee for a particular member of the on-air team. So you want to see them and thank them for what they do on our programs. Always welcome. For Kobe Lambeth, Matt White from the Grid Endurance Performance Index, I'm Joe San Diego. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.